Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all of the praises and the glory to the Most High and His Son, Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, Ba'ashem Rekak Radash, and double honor to the apostles of the great millstone, as well as giving also the salutations thereof towards the Yakim out there that's forwarding this ministry throughout the four winds of the earth. And shalom to the brothers and as well as even the sisters too that are in this truth and heeding onto the ministry, most importantly. And I got some news that I want to go over. I got this from one of the brothers, which was sent on the WhatsApp. And once again, inflation is incurring in these stores down here in the UK. And as this reads, shock reports reveals food prices could go up 15% over the summer, squeezing family finances further. So go as far as to read dairy, bread, and meat may be the big risers, according to the food industry research. Food prices could go up by 15% over the summer, adding to the stress on families facing rising petrol and energy bills. The Institute of Grocery Distribution said in a report that households are set to pay more for essentials including dairy, bread, and meat. The research predicted a family of four may have to increase their spend on foods and groceries from £396 per month to $439 per month. Last month, the Office of National Statistics recorded that inflation hit a 40-year high at 9% as food prices rises gathered pace, warned that some families may have to skip meals as inflation continues to rise. The report also mentioned that the UK economy is facing its strongest period of inflationary pressure since the 1970s. Because back in the 1970s, you had what you call an oil problem. All right. Just a little quick research that I did on that some time ago. So go as far as to read with the conflict in Ukraine worsening the impact by restricting supply chains and pushing up grain prices. And this is why what I want to also do is show you a bunch of news articles that have went out that you have a lot of people down here in England that have no shame of going towards the food banks. So life is more expensive than it ever was before. And it's having to do with the food and the supply chains, as I think I've just read already, as to why that this is going on. And the excuse is Ukraine, which, as we already know, the brothers on high to the brothers on low in this truth, we know, or as we should know, that the Ukrainian situation is nothing more than another crisis called in. We just came through another crisis or prior, which is the COVID one at that. And now we're in this one. All right. So this is the crisis that they're using to inflate your goods and as well as possibly manufacturing some form of a famine in some time to come. All right. So anyway, back on par. You have a lot of these articles here that I have before you that are showing that a lot of people in England are moving towards food banks right now. So even though the powers that be, they know that most people can't afford to deal with, the everyday life that is, they still make matters worse. They send these politicians before us and these prime ministers, as well as acting as though they have the interest for the people at heart, when in fact, in all reality, action-wise shows quite contrary. And I want to say this too. These elites on high are getting a rise of dopamine in their brain and through their bloodstream because, as we already know we know the kind of people that are running the planet. And these are people that are psychopathic by nature. And I just want to look up this word psychopathic, which goes into the word which means the pertaining to or of the nature of psychopathy, 1847. From psychopathy on model of German psychopathisch. From Greek psyche, mind, pathos, suffering, 1640s. Animating spirit, the human spirit or mind, from the Latin psyche, from the Greek psyche, the soul, mind, spirit, life, one's life, the invisible animating principle or entity which occupies the direct of the physical body, which includes the spirit, which means the spirit, excuse me. So in reading this, I'm brought to mind of this precept over here. This is why I have it on deck, because basically the so-called white man, beginning with these Amalekites, as I've said and I'll say it again, you know, they're having a high rise of dopamine in their brain and through their bloodstream, because these are people that are psychopathic. And the word psychopathic just means to have a spirit to lust for, to see the suffering of others. Like, you have people that are like this on the face of the earth, that lust to see the suffering of others. Just imagine that. All right, let that sink in as of what I just said. And this is why I have to read this. This is Proverbs 16 and verse 4, right into the point. The Lord hath made all things for himself, yea, even the wicked for the day of evil. And according to the book of Malachi 1 verse 4, that is the nation of Esau and Edom that are the border of wickedness. Excuse me for that. Right? And this is what makes them evil. And one of the things is their psychopathic trait, which, as I'm going to say, it means, the word psyche means the soul, or let's just say the spirit, and the word pathos means to suffer or suffering. So they love the idea of seeing people suffer. All right. And that's the reason why they're moving towards a new world order system, because that equals more control, that equals more greed, and other things that they desire. Because once they get access to these things, then they'll have a sense of empowerment, because the wicked get empowered when they see the righteous, or just people in general, suffer. So that's another reason as to why they're on the goal of formulating this one world order, is so that they can take what's theirs of the people and eventually, most importantly, take control over the souls of men. So this, again, as I'm going to say, will give them a higher rise of dopamine. All right, because they're psychopathic. You see how we as a people, and I'm really speaking about the brothers in the faith, you know, we get a good sense of feeling dopamine doing the right thing. Well, Esau gets dopamine doing the wrong thing. And this is what they're up to doing. All right. So anyway, with enough on that, let's read some more on this right here. So it reads, IGD warned that some families may have to skip meals as inflation continues to rise. The report also mentions that the UK economy is facing, I've read that already. Let me read this. It says, this has been compounded by the fact that Ukraine and Russia are both big global grain producers, collectively accounting for nearly a third of global wheat exports. Products that use grains such as bread and products containing meat from animal fed on grain. For example, chickens are to increase in price over the summer and autumn as a result, said the IGD. James Walton, the chief economist at IGD, said, from our research, we are unlikely to see the cost of living pressures easing soon. This will undoubtedly leave many households and the businesses serving them looking to the future with considerable anxiety. We are already seeing households skipping meals. A clear indicator, I think what they should have put is indicator. A clear indicator of food stress. We expect the mood of shoppers to remain bleak for the foreseeable future as they are impactable by rising inflation and a decline in real wages. Shoppers are likely to dial up money-saving tactics as far as possible. And as well as I will say, we've been speaking about this for years. We've been saying that the way of life is going to change. Because life as you know it as, or should I say this system in this life as you know it as, it's just going to get worse and worse and worse. Because the point that we're coming into is the downfall of this place. As I always say, we're transitioning now. We're in the phase of a transitioning. And before we get into seeing the second return of the Mashiach, Yahweh Shai, this system is going to get dire. All right. And this is just the beginning. So anyway, let's read the book of Psalms 73 concerning the wicked ones that are not going through this as of right now. Let's read Psalm 73, verse 12. We'll begin by reading that. Behold, these are the ungodly who prosper in the world, they increase in riches. And verily I have cleansed my heart in vain, and washed my hands in the innocency. For all the day long have I been plagued and chastened every morning. If I say I will speak thus, behold, I should offend against the generation of thy children. When I thought to know this, it was too painful for me, until I went into the sanctuary of the Most High. Then understood I their end. And even just me personally speaking, when I was in the world, it felt just like how he explained it. Like, how come, wicked people are prospering more than good people are? Because this is their time, as it is written in the book of Ecclesiastes 3, that there's a time and a place under the sun, under every season. So we're in a time and a place of the wicked triumphing. And the sanctuary that this is, as this reads, is referring to the truth, the knowledge of the Heavenly Father. So when we came into the knowledge of the Heavenly Father, now we know and we understand that eventually the wicked will surely come to their end. And that at the very end, because of their wrongful doings, terrors shall meet them. All right. So that's just the thing right there. Eventually the Lord is going to reward the righteous for their work and reward the wicked for their wrongdoing. Verse 18, surely thou didst set them in slippery places, and thou castest them down into destruction. How are they brought into desolation as in a moment? They are utterly consumed with terrors. So there you go. That's all I got to read right there. Okay. That's it. So eventually the wicked, which are triumphing right now, as it is written that the earth is given into the hands of the wicked, and he covereth the faces of the judges thereof, and that is Esau. As it is also written that promotion cometh not from the east to the west, nor to the south, but promotion cometh from the Lord. So the Lord gave Esau the promotion to be in the position that he's in today, to show us an example on how not to be, and so that the Lord eventually can show a greater example of why you shouldn't rule like how this devil ruled. Just like how he made an example out of the Pharaoh in Egypt, and he made an example out of Sodom and Gomorrah and those Canaanites. All right. So Esau, being that this is the last empire of all of the paganistic empires that came before this one, the Lord is going to make a grand example out of the Edomites. That's another reason why, or a greater reason why, he is in the power seat, as I will put it personally. Okay, so we're going to read forward into Ecclesiastes 5 verse 8. If thou seest the oppression of the poor, and violent perverting of judgment and justice in a province, marvel not at the matter, for he is that is higher than the highest regardeth, and there be higher than they. And the Most High regards, the Lord, regardeth the poor and those that are being wrongfully accused and judged. As it is written that the accuser of our brethren is going to be cast down, because the Lord is taken into consideration by record of what evils are being wrought and the injustices that have been going on for the centuries. All right. So the Lord regardeth all of this stuff. I'm going to read this again. If thou seest the oppression of the poor and violent perverting of judgment and justice in a province, marvel not at the matter, for he that is high than the highest regardeth, and there be higher than they, and that is the Most High. Okay, so by the looks of it, the poor are not being taken care of. Wrong judgment proceedeth, and therefore the righteous people of the Heavenly Father, they're condemned because of their way of seeing things, because it's quite contrary to the way of how the wicked sees things that are in power today. So because the power is with the wicked ones, which the Lord will break the staff of the wicked, which symbolizes, the word staff in the scriptures symbolizes power, right? So eventually when the Lord does all of that, then the righteous way of things will be put before. Righteous judgment will proceed. But right now, a righteous man can only but go so far in his righteousness in this society. And that's all going to be changed eventually. Okay? So don't worry about it. Marvel not when you see violence and the perverting of judgment and justice, as it reads, in a province. And wrongdoing is all over the world. It's not just in a province, but all manner of wrongdoing is all over the world. And that's because this man is in power. But eventually the Lord is going to make a great example of him, like I said earlier. All right, minutes earlier, I would say Psalms 12, and we're going to read verse 5. For the oppression of the poor, for the sighing of the needy, now will I arise, saith the Lord Yahweh, and I will set him in safety from him that puffeth at him. And that is eventually going to be true. The Lord is going to arise of the cries of the poor, because the Lord hears our words. He knows what we're going through. He's went through it, but he understands that we're going through much more greater afflictions under this man, under this rulership. And you know how the Lord feels about his people, especially his chosen, his election, that cry day and night, that sigh and cry for the abominations, as well as that be done in the midst thereof. So the Lord eventually is going to act. And Esau is going to be in a world of hurt. And as we always will put it, these devils will be judged, and they will be brought before justice. And they'll be brought in our hands. So for all of that, I want to say shalom.